discussed because that was taken off the table by the Democrats immediately. And this is every week. Every week you get a check, or a month, or biweekly. This is a major amount of money that you're getting directly. So it's really, it's a very big number. It's a very substantial number. And this is, don't forget, this is in addition to the $400. And this is a big number. And now at the end of the year, the assumption that I win, I'm going to terminate the payroll tax, which is another thing that some of the great economists would like to see done. We'll be paying into Social Security through the general fund, and it works out very nicely. If Biden would win, he wouldn't do that because he's going to double and triple everybody's taxes. He's going to have to explain that one. And as you know, he's also going to quadruple regulations. He wants to put regulations on. One of the reasons that we had the kind of numbers and big bounces that you've seen, I mean, we closed it up, we saved millions of lives, and now we open it and we bounce right back where we were. It looks like we'll be bouncing right back where we were. But one of the reasons is because we cut so many horrible regulations. And Biden, with his new partner, Kamala, will, if you think, he's going to put it all back, but many times more. I mean, they want to increase regulations, and that's just going to drive companies out, and it's going to drive people out. It's going to drive them to other countries, and it's going to make us not competitive with other countries. Please, Oya.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to highlight a kind of odd situation. In the last hour or so, if you Googled Antifa.com, it would take you straight to Joe Biden's website, his official campaign website. Odd situation. We don't know who's behind that. But it raises an interesting leadership question. Should Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, should they publicly denounce the Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization?
They should. I think they're afraid to. It's in my book, it's virtually a part of their campaign, Antifa. The Democrats act like, gee, I don't know exactly what that is. Take a look at Portland. Take a look at any place you want to take a look at. And they're all over the place. They were here. We put on a 10-year prison sentence if you knock down any statues 2 months ago, and since then we haven't seen much of them. We had to send border security. We sent actually Homeland and border and different forms of Homeland to Portland in order to, you know what we had to do. We had to save. They wanted to knock down a courthouse, a $500 million courthouse. They wanted to burn it down, knock it down, and they were easily able to defend. But the mayor and the governor of the state, they didn't want to do that. And we actually sent our people there, and they did a great job. And they did it easily, but in the meantime, they went to other parts of the city, and they're doing damage. And we're recommending to the governor that they call in national security, call in the National Guard. We're willing to get. We would stop that problem in 1 hour. We sent just defensive measures to protect and save that courthouse from being burned down or knocked down. We also saved a couple of other buildings, federal buildings, because they were unable to do the job. I have to say this, they have really good police. They have a great group of people that if they would be allowed to do their job, same with Chicago and same with New York and a couple of other cities. If they allowed, in Chicago, 25,000 police, and they're really good, but they're not allowed to do their job. In New York, you have New York's finest, but they've totally taken away their incentive. They've taken away their lives, in a sense, because they don't allow them to do their job. They could do that job so easily, you wouldn't have a problem in New York. And that includes with terrorism and everything else. They disbanded. They've cut by $1 billion, their budget in New York, $1 billion. And crime is up by 200%, 250%, depends on what week you're looking at. It's crazy what's going on in New York. We could solve that problem easily, but we don't have to, because they should be able to do it themselves. But they have to give the honor back. It's an honor. They have to give the honor back to their law enforcement groups. New York is great, so is Chicago. And in Portland, they could do the job. If they don't want to do that, we would send in gladly if they want. The National Guard will take care of it in 1 hour. It'll go very quickly. As we did, by the way, if you take a look in Minneapolis, when they were burning down Minneapolis, a wonderful place, but nobody's ever seen anything like it. After days, the very liberal mayor, and these are all run by liberal Democrats. Every place I talk about is run because we have great cities, and they're run by Republicans. Okay, it's there's no magic to it. It's obvious what's going on, and the cities that I mentioned are all run by liberal, very liberal Democrats, and it's very sad when you see what's happening to New York. It's very sad when you see what's happening to other cities, not just those three other cities. And when you look at what's happening, it's not even believable. I left New York almost 4 years ago, and you could see signs of problems because de Blasio was there. He's a horrific mayor, just horrific. I mean, people don't want to go there anymore. He's not only is it bad with crime, the way he talks about the city and what he does, he's horrific. And when I see that, it's a very sad thing. I left almost 4 years ago, right? And when I look and see what's happening to a city that I love, that still has great potential, but it's going to have to be brought back because what happened in New York is it's not even believable. What's happening in Chicago, where one weekend you had 78 people shot and 18 die in a weekend. And then successive weekends, you have so much of that happening, and it's really not even believable. And if you let Democrats run this country, and we've stopped it from going other places, if you let Democrats run this country, you'll have all of your cities be just like that.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. The heads of the Boston and Dallas Fed today said that the economy hasn't recovered strong enough because the country hasn't contained the virus. So what's your response to them, and what did that argue for a stronger federal response?
Well, look, you just saw it. Other countries were doing much better than all other major countries, peer countries. This chart came out just a little while ago. I thought I'd say, see, it's that kind of a question, the wise guy question, because I just went over the whole thing. We're doing better than almost everyone with the economy, and I think we face a headwind because Democrats, perhaps for political reasons, don't want to open up their states, and that's having a huge toll. That's taking a huge toll on people within those states. When you look at North Carolina, you have a man doesn't want to open it up. You look at Michigan, you look at some states. I mean, they just want to keep these people in their houses, in their prisons. They call them prisons. And I think a lot of it's for political reasons because they want to look as bad as possible on November 3rd. But I don't think it's going to matter because we're doing so well in so many ways. As far as the plague is concerned, when you look at the numbers, take a look at what's going on now with other countries. They're having flare-ups that are very, very substantial. And we've done very well. We're helping a lot of those countries. And those were model countries that you used to talk about and say how well they were doing, except they just exploded. They just had very big flare-ups. You understand that. Now, we're doing very well. And I don't have to show you the charts again, but those charts are at a level that nobody even thought possible. I think we're going to have a fantastic third quarter. I think next year will be one of the strongest years we've had. And this is with California being closed down. This is where North Carolina and Michigan and tremendous states, great states, are being closed by for reasons I think that Scott would tell you disagree with, right? You disagree with. We spent a great amount of time talking about it. We got to open up our country. We understand the disease. We understand who it hits. We have to protect our elderly people, especially our elderly people that are not well. We have to protect them. But we understand it, and we understand it well. We've learned a lot. And we're going to have the vaccine soon, and we're going to have the therapeutic soon. It's going to come out very soon, and we're very proud of the people and the job they've done. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. President. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris just appeared together in their first campaign event right before you got up on this podium. Can you tell us if you watched their remarks and give us your reaction to them?
I didn't watch. I saw just a moment of him speaking, a moment of her speaking, and it was enough. Look, he made a choice. He picked her. I watched her. I watched her poll numbers go boom, 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 down to almost nothing. And she left angry. She left mad. There was nobody more insulting to Biden than she was. She said horrible things about him, including accusations made about him by a woman where she, I guess, believed the woman. And now all of a sudden she's running to be vice president, saying how wonderful he is. I thought it was a very unusual pick because she said such bad things, and you know better than anybody what, you won't write it because, you don't want to do that, but you know better than anybody. She said horrible things about him, horrible things. And she mocked him, openly mocked him. That's why I thought that was a very risky pick, because I'm sure that'll be played back. Not necessarily by me, but others. It'll be played back. The other thing, if you look, she wants a $3 trillion tax hike. No fracking. How do you think no fracking in Pennsylvania is going to play? That's a big fracking state. If you didn't have energy produced that way, you would have taxes that would triple, and you'd have unemployment that you wouldn't believe. In Pennsylvania last year had the best year they've ever had. Texas last year had the best year they've ever had. Oklahoma, best year. Almost every state in our nation last year had the best year they've ever had. And they're going to have that again next year. And you can see that by what? But think of it. She wants no fossil fuels. No fossil fuels. Really? Tell that to Texas. And then I hear Trump is only 1 point up in Texas. Now, they said the same thing with crooked Hillary Clinton. They said, Texas is in play. Trump is down in Texas. And then I won Texas immediately when they said the polls are closed. Trump has won Texas. And I won by a lot. And I won Georgia by a lot. It's the same thing over. It's almost like a duplication of what happened before, except we have much more energy now than we ever did in 2016, and we had a lot. We had record amounts in 2016. But you take a look at the tax cuts. We gave the biggest tax cut in the history of our country and the biggest regulation cuts in the history of our country by far, right? He wants to increase everybody's taxes. And she's one of the people that wants that. I mean, you take a look at that. She wants to defund or at least substantially reduce money going to police departments. And you can't do that. You can't do that. It's actually got to be the opposite. I've been endorsed by so many police departments. I'm getting a really good one this week that you'll be seeing. Really big, really good. But who could ever, what police department, what law enforcement group could ever support Joe Biden, where he said things that are so bad and so foolish, frankly so stupid in terms of crime and what would happen. So we're getting all of law enforcement. We're getting the military. She wants to spend much less on our military. I've rebuilt the military. We have the strongest military now. Much of the equipment is coming in, all made in the United States. $2.5 trillion we spent. When I took over, we had a military that was totally, it was in terrible, terrible shape. It was depleted. It was a depleted military. Old planes, old tanks, old everything. And we have a beautiful, brand new military with the best people in the world. We never had anything like it. Some of the equipment is still coming in. No, we've done a real job, and I think we're going to be extremely successful. I was surprised that he picked her, very surprised because of the horrible way she talked about him, and frankly because she dropped like a rock. I didn't. When I ran against 17 people, mostly governors and senators, some others. Ben Carson was very strong, very good. A couple of others, but mostly governors, mostly senators, and I ran. And I went up. She ran and she went down to rock bottom. I don't think she ever got to run to take a vote in the first state. So generally speaking, you don't want to pick somebody that went down. She went down, but she went down in a very terrible way, and she said horrible things about Biden. She said far worse about Biden than I ever did, and now she's running as vice president. So how does that work? Please, in the back.
Mr. President, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering tonight if you might have any words of encouragement for middle schoolers or high schoolers starting the school year strictly online who might be frustrated, wondering how they're going to get through the next quarter, missing their friends and teachers. Just wondering if you might have any words of encouragement for them.
It's such a fair question, such a good question. Yeah, I mean, you hear what I was saying, where Scott will be involved, and he'll be talking to you over the next couple of days, what he's saying from great experience. No, I feel very badly for him. And I have a feeling that on November 4th, somebody's going to announce schools are open, the country's open, everything's open. I really believe a lot of it's done for political reasons, if you want to know the truth. I think so. But you're right. Online is not the same as being in the classroom, and that's been proven. It's been proven loud and clear. Yeah. Any other questions?
Mr. President.
Only a
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have warned several times that if Joe Biden is elected president, that there will be an invasion in suburban neighborhoods. It's a sentiment that you expressed in a tweet again this morning. What exactly do you mean by invasion?
What I mean is people are going to become, they're going to be opening up areas of your neighborhood, which they're doing, and now they're going to do, they wanted to expand it, and they will expand it. If for any reason they're going to, in my opinion, destroy suburbia. And just so you understand, 30% plus of the people living in suburbia are minorities. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, they're minorities, 30%. The number's even higher. They say 35, but I like to cut it a little bit lower. You know why? That way I can never get myself in too much trouble with the fake news. But 30% plus are minorities living in suburbia. And when they go in and they want to change zoning so that you have lots of problems, where they want to build low-income housing, you want something where people can aspire to be there, not something where it gets hurt badly. And that's what happens. So with suburban women, suburban men, I think they feel very strongly about what I'm doing. It's a very fair question. It's a very important question. But they fought all their lives to be there, and then all of a sudden they have something happen that changes their life and changes what they fought for so many years. John, please.
Two quick ones, if I could, Mr. President. I know you were briefed on it. Have you decided where you're going to give your acceptance speech yet?
So we're looking at Gettysburg, a magnificent site. I've been there a number of times, just a magnificent site. And we're looking at the White House. And I would say it's really down to those two. The White House would be much easier from the standpoint of Secret Service and, you know, the movement of hundreds of people, as you know. I would say we love them both. I love Gettysburg, but it's this is simpler. Would be magnificent. The White House is the White House is the White House. Gettysburg is one of the great and historic sites of our country, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, of the world. So one of those two, I'll probably be announcing it over the next week or so. Maybe.
I had a question about payroll taxes. If you permanently rescind the payroll tax, how do you pay for Social Security?
We're taking it out of the general fund, and what we'll do, what we'll be doing is, if we do that, we'll get it approved, in that case by Congress, and we'll take the money from other places other than, we will not take it from Social Security in any way, shape, or form.
How do you fund it from the general fund when the general fund just incurred a debt of $2.8 trillion?
You're right, but we're going to have tremendous growth. We have tremendous growth. You take a look at what's happening here. Next year, unless somebody comes in who doesn't know what they're doing and they start raising taxes and forcing everybody to leave the country or leave their jobs and companies to close, we will have tremendous growth. You will see growth like you haven't seen in a long time.
Mr. President, since you didn't see Kamala Harris's remarks today, I wonder if we could just get you to respond to one thing that she said.
Sure.
She said that your refusal to get testing up and running, I'm paraphrasing, you're flip-flopping on social distancing and masks, and your delusional belief that you know better than the experts, all of that, in her words, a reason that one American dies of COVID-19 every minute. What do you think of that?
I think that's probably one of the reasons she was a terrible candidate and was forced to leave the race, because she got her facts wrong. You know, she's very bad on facts. She's very weak on facts. And just so you understand, we've done more testing than any country in the world by far. That includes India, which has 1.5 billion people. That includes China. That includes every country in the world. We've done more testing. We have better testing than any country in the world. They call, they want to know, where do we get it? How do we get it? We have better testing than any country in the world. When you do as much testing as us, however, as you understand, you develop more cases. If you tested on a set of 65 million people, which is what we've done, when you test that many people, you're going to find cases that normally you wouldn't see. If you go to Mexico and you go to other countries, you'll see they do almost no testing. They test if somebody's not feeling well. They test if somebody is symptomatic. They test very little. They test very little. We've done more testing than anybody in the world. We've done the best job of any country in the world, and that includes from making ventilators that nobody else could have done. We are the ventilator king of the world. We're supplying the whole world now in a few short months with ventilators that are very hard to produce, very expensive, very complex, very delicate, very, very important. We've done a great job. And then on top of that, when you look at the numbers, how we were impacted less than these other countries, and now you look at the explosion of countries that you would have said did such a good job, and some of them had advantages over us for obvious reasons having to do with the pandemic. But when you look at the job that we've done compared to others, we've done a great job. And I read today that she's very short on facts. I think she's going to be a big failure, and I look forward to the debate between her and Mike Pence, because I think he'll do even better against her than he did against Senator Kaine, which was a total wipeout. So we'll see how it all works out. All right, one more. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Lee?
No, in the back.
Thank you. Just ask, what do you say to those critics who argue you're trying to sow distrust in democracy and deliberately trying to sabotage the post office to undermining mail-in voting, which a lot of people need?
I say the Democrats are sabotaging the post office because they're not approving $25 billion that was requested. So they're sabotaging the post office, and they're not allowing the post office to function properly, and they're certainly not allowing universal mail-in votes when they do that. But equally importantly, they're not allowing $3.5 billion in funds to do voting that they'd like to do. Therefore, all of this and all of the tremendous mistakes that were made with regard to mail-in voting, all of these tremendous mistakes, you can't even do it. I would imagine the courts, this is in many courts right now, they're showing all of the disasters that have taken place just in the last short period of time, in the last 2 months, with respect to universal mail-in voting. It's just like a total catastrophe what's happening, and we can't let that happen. Go ahead, real fast.
Mr. President, I'm
Sure, go ahead.
One is about, you had graphs about the economics of COVID, but deaths in America are still going up, whereas in Europe, right now, 0 deaths in UK, 0 deaths in France.
What's going up by cases, if you look at cases, and the cases are going up because we do so much testing and we find it, and I call it fake media gold, because we do so much more testing than any other country, and when you do all that testing, you find cases. Go ahead, Steve, real fast.
First one on trade. You've got these trade talks with China going on. Is it possible you would pull out of the trade deal with China if they're not meeting their commitment?
We've taken a lot of money from China in the last year and a half that no other president has taken in. We've done things to China that nobody else has done to China, even thought of doing it, with 25% tariffs, and taken in billions and billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars, and given the farmers, as an example, $12 billion one year, $16 billion another year, and made the farmers extremely happy. You don't hear them complaining. They were targeted by China. But I'm very angry at China because they let this horrible disease, they let this horrible plague come into our country and come into the world. And they should have been able to stop it. They stopped it from going into China. They should have been able to stop it. So I'm very angry at China. Thank you very much.
Mr. President,